You know, it's funny, isn't it? Like how we used to memorize phone numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's like, what, 10 years? It seems like a lifetime ago, seriously.
It really does.
Now we just tap a name,
Yeah.
and it's like our smartphones are like part of our brains,
Yeah.
control hard drives for our memories. But what happens when we outsource so much of our thinking to technology? That's what we're diving into today, right? This article we've got argues that AI might be creating a modern-day Library of Alexandria,
Wow.
and that could have some pretty big consequences.
Yeah, I mean, the Library of Alexandria, that was, well, for anyone who needs a refresher, it was this amazing center of learning.
Right, in ancient Egypt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had this massive amount of knowledge, and then it was destroyed.
Oof, gone.
Yeah.
So are we headed for a similar loss, this time not of physical books, but like our ability to think critically and, even just know things?
Well, let's see, huh?
Let's find out.
So the article starts with the author talking about their own experience using AI for writing, and it's interesting how quickly they realize,
Yeah, how AI could be used to spread information that hasn't been checked,
oh, totally.
Like imagine you're writing an article and the AI suggests a statistic.
Uh-huh.
That seems like perfect for your argument.
Okay, yeah.
But did you actually check the source? Like, does that statistic even exist?
It's easy to just get swept up in how fast and easy AI is.
Totally. You forget those basic steps like fact-checking.
That's such a good point, and it makes me think about all those influencers out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
With huge online followings. Like, what if they start relying on AI to make content without bothering to check if it's actually true?
Right.
That could create, like, a tidal wave of misinformation.
It really could.
That would be hard to stop.
Exactly. And the author actually compares it to that game, telephone.
Oh, yeah.
Where you whisper a message and it gets all distorted.
Right, as it goes around.
They think AI could make that effect way worse, make it so much harder to tell what's true and what's fake.
And then, if we're not careful, we end up in a world where, like, truth and lies, they're basically the same thing. And think about what that means for news, social media, even for, like, academic research. It's kind of scary.
For sure. Definitely unsettling. And it's interesting how the author ties this back to, the Library of Alexandria being destroyed. Their argument is that just like the people who studied at the library carried knowledge with them, like in their own minds, we as a society are like a big copy of all the knowledge that's been gathered through history.
I see.
But then what happens to that copy if we just rely on AI all the time?
Yeah.
And we stop really learning and checking things ourselves.
That's the big worry, isn't it?
Yeah.
The author's worried that by basically making algorithms do our thinking for us, we risk losing that shared base of knowledge that, like, lets us communicate, understand each other, make good decisions. It's not just about individuals losing critical thinking skills. It's about our whole collective intelligence maybe getting weaker.
Makes you wonder about education, right?
Really?
Like, imagine students using AI to write their essays.
Oh, yeah.
Or do their math homework.
Right.
Without ever actually understanding the stuff.
Just plugging things in.
It feels like we're at this point where we really need to balance how convenient AI is with, like, the core value of learning independently and deeply,
Absolutely. The author actually uses this idea of foundational knowledge, which is like, think of it like building blocks,
Yeah.
You need a solid foundation to build on, whether you're building a house or forming an opinion about something.
Right.
If AI starts giving us answers without that foundation, are we really learning? Or are we just getting good at using algorithms?
Yeah.
It's something we need to think hard about as both educators and learners.
For sure. It's almost like a race, isn't it?
How so?
Between how fast AI is getting better and how fast we can change our education systems to make sure AI helps us learn instead of, replacing it altogether.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And, the author gets into some of the technical stuff, too, about how AI algorithms actually work. Basically, they're trained on tons and tons of data.
Right.
And they use that to come up with responses, make predictions, all that.
I see.
But the problem is, if the data is biased or wrong to begin with, those problems are going to show up in what the AI produces. It's like baking a cake.
Okay.
If you use bad ingredients, the cake's going to taste bad no matter how fancy your oven is.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Right.
And it really highlights why we can't just blindly trust whatever AI spits out.
Totally.
Especially when we're talking about important decisions.
Especially then. And the author even goes further. They imagine a future where we need special groups of people just to check information. In this world where AI is everywhere, it's like fact checkers on steroids.
Oh, wow.
Working nonstop to sift through all this AI-generated content and figure out what's real.
Yeah.
But then makes you wonder who checks the checkers, right? It gets complicated fast.
That's crazy. Makes me wonder if we even need to rethink what freedom of information even means. I mean, we always thought more information was good, but what if it gets to a point where it's just too much?
Right.
Most of it's not even reliable, and it just makes it impossible to make good decisions.
It's a good question, and it gets to the heart of what the author's worried about. They think this potential information overload could lead to, like, intellectual paralysis, you know?
What do you mean?
Like, we're so bombarded with opinions and stuff that isn't even true that we just give up trying to figure it all out.
Oh, wow.
And that's dangerous because it could mean less critical thinking, less participation in our communities.
Right.
Even our ability to function in a democracy could be at risk.
Yeah, it really makes you think twice about, all our assumptions about the internet and this idea that information should just flow freely. Right. Like, we've been celebrating that for so long, right? This whole democratization of knowledge thing.
Anyone can learn anything.
Yeah, anyone with internet can access all this information. But what if it's all just mixed up with so much AI-generated stuff that we can't even tell what's real anymore?
Like, we're standing at the edge of this, like, digital jungle, right?
Yeah.
It's full of amazing possibilities, but there are all these hidden dangers, too. Kind of reminds me of that scene in WALL-E.
Oh, yeah.
Where humans are just blobs floating around in space.
Right.
Completely disconnected from reality because they relied on technology so much.
Bit extreme, maybe?
Maybe, but it makes you think, right, about what happens if we get too passive.
Right.
And let technology do everything for us.
It's a good warning, for sure. But the author doesn't think we're doomed or anything.
Okay.
They think there's a way forward, but we have to be active, engaged.
In this new AI world. And that starts with understanding how AI is already changing things. Like, did you know that algorithms are already being used to, like, personalize our news feeds?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And choose what search results we see, even target us with ads?
I've totally noticed that. Like, my social media just shows me stuff I already agree with.
Right.
It's kind of creepy, like I'm in an echo chamber or something.
Yeah. It's like your own biases are just getting amplified.
And I know AI is behind that somehow.
It is. Those algorithms, they're designed to learn what we like and then show us more of it.
Okay.
Which can be good sometimes, but it can also create these filter bubbles.
Yeah.
Where we just never see anything different, anything that challenges our views.
So how do we get out of those bubbles?
Right.
Is it even possible to be truly unbiased in our information intake when AI is everywhere?
It's tough, no doubt. But the author says the first step is to be skeptical about everything, no matter where the information comes from. So check sources, look for other evidence that backs it up, and even if it's something you want to believe, question it, be willing to be wrong. It's about moving away from just passively absorbing information.
Right.
And becoming more like an investigator, always questioning, seeking out different angles.
That sounds exhausting, though.
It's a shift, for sure.
In this crazy busy world, who has time to fact check everything they see online?
Well, maybe it means slowing down.
Okay.
Being more intentional about what we choose to consume.
Like choosing a good meal.
Right, exactly. Like a chef picking ingredients.
You don't just throw anything in the pot.
Exactly. You take your time, choose the good stuff.
Love that analogy. And it makes me think about, education. If we want to survive in this AI world, we need the right skills.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Critical thinking, media literacy, all that.
We got to be able to tell fact from fiction, spot bias, figure out if a source is trustworthy.
Absolutely.
That's what education needs to focus on now.
So it's not just using AI.
Right.
It's about understanding it, questioning it, even like shaping how it develops, making sure it's good for humanity.
I like that.
Maybe that's where those specialist bodies the author talked about come in.
Oh, the fact checkers on steroids.
Yeah. Maybe they could also teach people about AI, how it works, what it can't do.
Interesting.
So we can all be smarter about how we use information.
That's a good idea. It shows how we need to tackle this problem from all sides.
Yeah.
We can't just rely on tech solutions or government rules. We need a whole change in our culture.
Okay.
Where critical thinking is valued, reliable information is prized, and we remember that humans are still in charge, even with all this AI around.
It's like a call to action for all of us, right?
It is.
To stay informed, be critical, fight for a future where AI helps us, not makes us dumber.
That's a great way to sum it up. This is a big moment, and what we do now will decide how AI shapes the future.
Yeah.
Will it be a future of, like, enlightenment and progress, where AI helps us learn more and solve problems?
Yeah.
Or will it be all confusion and manipulation, where we just end up relying on these algorithms we don't even understand?
Feels like we're at this, like, crossroads, The path we pick now, it's going to determine what happens to knowledge and critical thinking in this whole AI age. But you know what? Even with all the scary stuff we talked about,
right,
I'm still, like, optimistic.
Me too. I think there's this real urgency in the author's message, but it's not, like, hopeless. Right. It's a call to action. It's like they're reminding us that we're the ones in control,
Yeah.
And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting to me. It's not just about AI.
Right.
It's about us.
Yeah.
Understanding who we are in this whole crazy changing world.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway here.
Maybe so.
AI isn't some outside force that's going to decide our fate.
Right.
It's a tool that we're building and using.
Right.
And what it does ultimately depends on what we do.
Exactly. We have the power to choose how AI fits into our lives, how we teach ourselves and future generations about it.
Yeah.
And how we make sure it's accountable, that it actually helps humanity.
I like that. It's empowering.
Right. It is.
Reminds us that we're not just sitting back and watching this all happen.
Right.
We're actually shaping it.
We are.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about.
Okay.
What can you do in your own life to make sure AI makes you smarter, not dumber?
Good question.
Maybe it's being more careful about where you get your information.
Yeah.
Or taking the time to double check things. Or looking for opinions that are different from your own.
All good ideas.
Or maybe it's supporting education that teaches people to think critically in this digital age.
Yeah. That's crucial.
Whatever you choose to do, remember that knowledge is a journey.
It is.
Not a destination.
And with AI, that journey is going to be full of twists and turns.
It will.
Got to be curious, skeptical, and engaged.
Yeah.
More than ever before.
For sure. Because the future of knowledge, well, we're the ones building it.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and its impact on knowledge.